What if the struggles you're facing right now, fear, injustice, suffering, weren't meant to destroy you, but to position you for something greater? Sounds impossible, right? But here's the truth. In a world filled with uncertainty, Psalm 75 stands as a bold declaration that God is still in control. No matter how chaotic life feels, no evil force, no setback, no unfair situation is beyond his reach. Think about it. How often do people carry burdens they were never meant to hold? Fear that paralyzes, injustices that seem endless, wounds from the past that refuse to heal. It's exhausting, but what if there was a way to break free? Psalm 75 reveals a powerful secret. God lifts up those who trust in him and brings justice in his perfect timing. He is not distant. He is not silent. And when you truly grasp this truth, something shifts inside. Peace replaces anxiety. Faith replaces doubt. And confidence in God's plan becomes unshakable. So, the question is, are you ready to let go of the weight you've been carrying? Because what you're about to discover isn't just a set of words. It's a divine strategy to remove fear, release pain, and step into a life of strength, justice, and renewal. But before we go deeper, let's start by unlocking the power of surrender. There are moments in life when fear grips the heart, anger clouds judgment, and anxiety steals peace. These emotions, left unchecked, create a cycle of negativity that shapes reality in ways most don't realize. Psalm 75 holds a profound truth. It reminds the soul that God is in control and that divine order prevails even when circumstances seem chaotic. Imagine walking into a storm but knowing, with unshakable certainty, that the sun still shines above the clouds. That's the power of this psalm. It lifts the spirit above the temporary turbulence of life. Envy and scarcity often stem from the illusion that blessings are limited, that someone else's success means personal failure. But Psalm 75 dismantles this falsehood, reinforcing the truth that God elevates at the right time and blesses without measure. Picture two farmers. One anxiously hoards seeds, afraid of lack, while the other sows generously, trusting in the harvest. The difference isn't in the soil, it's in their faith. This psalm calls for a shift in perspective, a release of resentment, and a deeper trust in divine timing. But how does one truly let go of these heavy burdens? It starts with surrender, acknowledging that carrying them alone is exhausting and unnecessary. Picture someone clinging to a rope, hands burning, refusing to let go despite knowing there's a safety net below. Psalm 75 is that net. It invites the weary to loosen their grip, to stop fighting battles already won by God. And when that surrender happens, something incredible unfolds. Words shape reality in ways few truly grasp. A single phrase, repeated daily, has the power to rewire thoughts, shift emotions, and open doors to healing. That's why crafting a personal affirmation is more than just a feel-good exercise. It's a spiritual declaration. Imagine waking up each morning and saying, I am strong, I am loved, I trust God's plans. Over time, these words don't just live in the mind. They settle into the heart, transforming doubt into faith. But why does this work? Because the Bible teaches that the tongue has the power of life and death. Think of the mind as fertile soil. Whatever is planted will grow. A person who constantly says, nothing ever works out for me, is unknowingly nurturing failure. But someone who declares, God's favor is upon me, begins to see doors open in unexpected ways. It's not magic, it's alignment. Just as Psalm 75 reminds believers of divine justice, affirmations align thoughts with God's truth, creating space for miracles to unfold. It's like tuning a radio. When set to the right frequency, the message comes in clearly. But for affirmations to be truly effective, they must be spoken with conviction and consistency. Saying them once won't erase years of negative programming. It's a daily practice, like nourishing the body with healthy food. Some people write their affirmations on mirrors. Others repeat them during prayer, letting them become an extension of their faith. And as this practice deepens, something profound begins to happen. Worries loosen their grip, peace takes root, and a new reality starts to emerge. Life often feels unfair. Good people suffer, the wicked prosper, and justice seems distant. But Psalm 75 carries a powerful truth. God is the ultimate judge, and his timing is perfect. It's easy to demand immediate answers, but divine justice doesn't operate on human schedules. Imagine a potter shaping clay. If rushed, the vessel cracks. God's process isn't about delay, it's about precision. Every challenge, every waiting season, is part of something greater, even when it's hard to see. The problem is that human nature resists waiting. People want quick resolutions, immediate signs, and instant justice. But Psalm 75 reassures that exaltation, being lifted to new levels, comes only from God, not from manipulation or shortcuts. Consider a tree. Before it stands tall, its roots must deepen. Without that unseen growth, it would collapse at the first storm. Those who trust God's justice aren't forgotten. They are being prepared. Delay is never denial when it's God's hands shaping the outcome. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of being consumed by resentment or frustration, believers can rest, knowing that God sees, knows, and acts in the right moment. Think of Joseph, betrayed, imprisoned, forgotten. But when the time was right, God elevated him to a position of power. Psalm 75 isn't just a poetic verse. It's a spiritual anchor. And when someone truly embraces this promise, they step into a new way of living, one that leads to a profound sense of peace. Holding on to pain is like gripping a burning coal, expecting someone else to be hurt while the fire scorches the soul. Many carry guilt over past mistakes, fear of the future, and the heavy weight of depression, not realizing they were never meant to bear these burdens alone. Psalm 75 reminds believers that God lifts the weary, renews strength, and transforms every broken piece into something beautiful. But that transformation can only begin when there's surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing control. Imagine someone lost at sea, desperately clinging to a piece of driftwood while a rescue boat waits nearby. The only way to be saved is to let go and reach for what's secure. That's how God works. He doesn't force his help, but the moment a person surrenders their struggles, his power moves. Pain is not proof of punishment, nor is suffering a sign of abandonment. Instead, it's an invitation to deeper trust, a reminder that divine renewal is always available. But surrender is not a one-time event. It's a daily choice. Every morning, fears and regrets try to creep back in, whispering lies of unworthiness and hopelessness. That's why prayer, reflection, and immersing oneself in the Bible are essential. Just as the body needs daily nourishment, the soul needs daily surrender. And when this becomes a habit, something incredible happens. Pain loses its grip, hope takes its place, and a new path of freedom begins to unfold. There are forces in this world that seek to drain, oppress, and distract. Some come disguised as negative thoughts, others as toxic relationships, and some even as unseen spiritual battles. Psalm 75 is a declaration that God reigns supreme, and no darkness can withstand his power. But breaking free from these chains requires more than just wishing. They must be shattered through prayer. Imagine standing in a locked room, unaware that the key is already in hand. Prayer is that key. When a person prays, they activate divine intervention. It's not just words spoken into the air. It's a call to action in the spiritual realm. Picture someone walking through a dark tunnel with only a flickering candle. Alone, the light seems weak, but with prayer, that candle turns into a blazing torch, pushing back the darkness. God's power is not distant. It's present, ready to work in those who ask. That's why Psalm 75 is more than a reminder. It's a weapon against every force that tries to hold someone back. But the real question is, what chains need breaking? Fear? Doubt? Generational struggles? Nothing is too strong for God. When someone declares in prayer, "Lord, I release every negative influence from my life," they are making a spiritual contract, stepping into the freedom Christ has already won. And as this prayer becomes a daily practice, something powerful begins to shift. Bondages weaken, peace grows stronger, and a new sense of clarity begins to emerge. The past can be a prison, with rejection, failure, and guilt acting as the chains that keep people bound. Many live carrying wounds from words spoken long ago, mistakes they wish they could undo, or doors that never opened. But Psalm 75 reminds believers that God is the one who lifts up, restores, and rewrites stories. Holding on to past wounds is like walking forward while staring at a rearview mirror. Eventually, it leads to a crash. But when someone shifts their focus to God's plan, the road ahead becomes clear. Think of a person drowning in deep water, weighed down by heavy stones tied to their ankles. Each stone represents regret, shame, or painful memories. Freedom doesn't come from struggling harder. It comes from cutting the ties. That's what faith does. It severs the lies that whisper, "You'll never be enough," replacing them with truth. You are chosen. You are loved. You have a purpose. The past does not define the future when God is the one writing the next chapter. But healing isn't passive, it's a journey. It takes daily surrender, prayer, and immersing oneself in the Bible to replace old wounds with new strength. The enemy loves to remind people of past failures, but God's voice always speaks of new beginnings. And when someone embraces this truth, something incredible happens. The weight lifts, hope returns, and a new sense of identity begins to take root. Faith isn't just believing in God. It's trusting that He is actively working, even when nothing seems to change. Psalm 75 declares that God lifts up the righteous and brings down the wicked, proving that His justice is never absent. But faith goes beyond waiting. It's the fuel that sustains, restores, and strengthens. Imagine an athlete training for a race. Without endurance, they collapse before reaching the finish line. Faith is that endurance, keeping the spirit strong when life feels overwhelming. Restoration begins when a person stops depending on their own strength and leans fully on God's power. It's easy to feel weak after battles with fear, disappointment, and hardship. But just as a tree regrows stronger after being pruned, so does the soul when it surrenders to God's refining process. The Bible is filled with stories of people who were broken, only to be restored for something greater. Job, David, Paul. Their secret? They didn't rely on what they saw. They relied on what God promised. Divine protection is part of this transformation. When someone walks in faith, they are shielded in ways they may never see. Maybe a closed door was actually a rescue. Maybe a delayed opportunity was a setup for something greater. Psalm 75 reminds believers that their journey is not random. It's guided. And as faith deepens, confidence grows, burdens fade, and the path forward becomes clearer. Gratitude isn't just a polite habit. It's a spiritual force that reshapes reality. Psalm 75 opens with thanksgiving, setting the tone for a life filled with divine favor. Too often, people focus on what's missing, what's broken, or what hasn't happened yet. But the moment gratitude takes center stage, everything shifts. Imagine two people in the same storm. One panics, the other praises. The storm doesn't change, but their experience does. Gratitude turns fear into faith, lack into abundance, and struggle into strength. When someone thanks God, even before seeing results, they step into a higher level of trust. It's like planting seeds in a garden. No one expects instant fruit, but they trust the process. The same applies to faith. Gratitude is the watering that accelerates blessings. Think of Jesus before multiplying the loaves and fish. He gave thanks first. That wasn't by accident. Gratitude activates miracles. And when this habit becomes part of daily life, struggles stop feeling like dead ends and start looking like opportunities for God's power to shine. That's why revisiting prayers is so important. Many people pray once and forget, but real transformation happens when gratitude continues long after the request. When someone consistently thanks God for peace, strength, and provision, they reinforce their faith. It's like exercising a muscle. The more it's used, the stronger it becomes. And when gratitude takes root, life no longer feels like a series of obstacles. It becomes a journey of endless divine breakthroughs. Now that you've uncovered the power of Psalm 75, one question remains. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you let it be just another message, or will you take action and apply it to your life? Because the truth is, nothing changes until faith turns into action. Will you start praying with confidence, knowing that God is already working? Will you replace fear with trust, surrendering every worry into His hands? Think about the burdens you've been carrying, the fears, the past wounds, the doubts. What if, right now, you made the choice to release them? What if you decided to believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that divine justice is already unfolding? Imagine the peace that would follow. Imagine walking into every situation with the unshakable certainty that God is lifting you up, breaking every chain, and guiding your steps. Because that's exactly what's happening. But here's the thing. Spiritual growth doesn't happen in isolation. If you want to keep deepening your faith, strengthening your prayers, and unlocking new levels of divine wisdom, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's so much more to discover, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Stay connected, stay faithful, and get ready, because God is leading you into something extraordinary.